It's nice to meet you, Mrs. Ewing.
Sue Ellen.
Sue Ellen.
You may hear showrunners and screenwriters refer to an A-plot and a B-plot. The A-plot is the main story that the writer wants to tell, and the B story is there to make sure that the audience doesn't get burned out on a single story thread. Ideally, the B-plot will also provide context for the A-plot, presenting characters or situations that are similar but with one aspect of difference. I wonder if that will come into play in this episode. The Ewings are in the middle of a welcome home celebration after the events of Bypass. Sue Ellen gets Jock an Italian sculpture, which comes as a shock to JR. Bobby and Pam's gift of a photo album is much better received, but it also starts talk about which couple will be the first to make Jock and Ellie grandparents again. The discussion continues between Pam and Bobby in the bedroom. Pamela wants to wait until they're both ready, and she definitely doesn't want a baby just to appease Jock Ewing. She compares herself to Sue Ellen, who Pam says would disappear if JR didn't exist. Pam wants a job, which confuses Bobby, and he's the progressive Ewing.
Sue Ellen does what she can do, but I can't live that way.
Are you trying to tell me that working with Liz Craig at the store is your kind of life?
Meanwhile, Sue Ellen tries to seduce JR so they can get started on providing Jock the heir he so desperately wants.
Your father blames me because we don't have any children, and I don't like the way he looks at me.
Sue Ellen thinks that Jock doesn't see her worth if she's not producing a Ewing heir, and that's not without some evidence. JR accuses her of being drunk, again not without some evidence, and offers to buy her a puppy. Sue Ellen is heartbroken about him running out on her, and then Ray Krebbs Forrest Gumps his way into the right place at the right time. Sue Ellen immediately puts the moves on him, and Ray beds his third Ewing woman. The next day, Sue Ellen is cold to him, communicating that she was just using him all along. I know I give Ray a lot of flack, but he often gets used as a pawn in the rich people games. That's not fair to Ray. Miss Ellie offers some homespun wisdom. Having a baby will repair your marriage, so Sue Ellen should just go out and find a baby. I know that the normal rule of thumb is to listen to Miss Ellie, but there's a lot wrong with what she's saying here. Mostly because she doesn't know the extent of Sue Ellen and JR's problems. Sue Ellen is disappointed to find that even the Ewing name won't get her pushed to the front of the line when finding a baby. The adoption lady does hook Sue Ellen up with a shady black market baby lawyer, though. Back at the ranch, Bobby and Pam continue the discussion about Pamela getting a job. In a great exchange, Bobby tells Pamela that he thought that they had settled the discussion the previous night, but she responds,
We didn't settle anything. You gave me your opinion.
High five, Pam. Bobby doesn't see the point of her getting a job and tells her he doesn't want this, so Pam tells him he's too much like his father and storms off. A lot of storming off in this episode. I should also point out this is the second time this season that Bobby has been compared to one of the other Ewing men.
You're getting more like JR every day.
Back in Dallas, Cliff coincidentally is hanging out with Sue Ellen's black market baby lawyer, talking about his campaign for state senate. They run into Sue Ellen for her appointment and she hits it off with Cliff immediately. I'm sure that's just innocent flirtation and it won't ever be followed up on. The lawyer, Buzz Connors, tells Sue Ellen that there are a lot of young girls exploring abortion who would be happy to sell their babies instead. Classy guy. The cost of $15,000 actually seems pretty cheap, even in $1978, but then I'm probably just a rube when it comes to the baby market. Sue Ellen demands to meet the mother if she's going to be paying that kind of money, leading to one of the cringier moments of the show. Sue Ellen visits the ghetto in her wood-paneled station wagon, and the producers decide to go with what sounds like a royalty-free version of the Sanford and Son theme. Let's see, we've got unattended kids in a stolen shopping cart, kid playing with a tire, haphazardly strewn 2x4s, a black guy chilling on the stoop with what looks like a 40 in a paper bag. Do we get that this is an impoverished neighborhood yet? Anything more to drive that home? By the way, the apartment looks significantly nicer than the one I lived in as a college student. The mother, Rita, is immediately frosty to Sue Ellen. She drinks a soda and tries to bum a smoke. Sue Ellen offers to put her up in a nicer apartment, which Rita is quick to set demands on. There are a couple of ways to read Rita. The first is that she's just defensive about being treated like a specimen by Sue Ellen. The second is that the writers are inadvertently indulging in some ignorant stereotypes about poor people. That they're constantly grasping for other people's money and lacking in any kind of social graces. I'd like to give the showrunners the benefit of the doubt here, but the silly establishing shot kinda makes me think it's the latter. Jock is confused and angry when he finds out that Pamela wants a job, but his reaction is so over the top that it makes Bobby see how wrong he was earlier. Bobby immediately switches positions to defend Pam against his own father, and I just love Miss Ellie's knowing smirk. She didn't get to reap the benefits of second-wave feminism the way Pam is, but you can see a gentle sense of pride as Jock gets flustered by the idea. Liz from the store advises Pam to hold off on taking the job because she doesn't want to cause problems, or invoke Ewing wrath. Pam, always with a healthy outlook, tells her that she and Bobby fight because they are individuals. Sue Ellen and Rita bond over being former beauty queens, and Sue Ellen takes her shopping. Of course, they run into Pamela, and Sue Ellen has difficulty explaining everything. Rita thinks Sue Ellen is ashamed of her, so Sue Ellen has to let her know that JR is unaware of their arrangement. JR interrupts Lucy's continued attempts to seduce Ray Krebbs, so the Lucy News Network informs him about Buzz Connor's calls to the house, and how Sue Ellen is up to something. JR puts a tail on Sue Ellen to figure out what she's doing. Rita calls the house to ask which hospital to go to, but she doesn't recognize Pam's voice and thinks that she's talking to Sue Ellen. Pam figures everything out and confronts Sue Ellen about it, but Sue Ellen tells her to buzz off and mind her own business. You know what? Valid. Sue Ellen goes to visit Rita again, only to find JR at the apartment. JR reveals that he's sent Rita away on a bus to California, foiling Sue Ellen's plan to have a baby. Sue Ellen, of course, blames Pamela for blowing the secret. JR comes home and stops Sue Ellen from leaving him. She says she feels worthless because he won't have sex with her. So being JR, he rapes her on the bed. Something that would be legal under Texas law's marital rape exemption for another 16 years after the airing of this episode. In what feels like a completely different world, Bobby surprises Pam with a beautiful Chevy Corvette and tells her that she'll need it because she's going to be going to and from her job so often. Aww. Sue Ellen watches all this from afar, a bitter reminder of the kind of emotional support and connection that's missing from her own marriage. JR comes out and tells Sue Ellen that he'll be working late again. By now, we know that this is code for he'll be fooling around and she shouldn't wait up. Sue Ellen is left all alone again, with no child and only the wisp of a marriage. Although the baby plot takes up most of the show, Black Market Baby is less about Sue Ellen's desire to have a baby and more about exploring the lack of connection she has with JR. This is made all the more apparent when contrasted with Bobby and Pam's relationship in the B story. The episode is a tale of two marriages. In family communication studies, we talk about the difference between communal relationships and agentic relationships. Communal relationships are based on sharing time, sharing activities, and emotionally supporting one another. Agentic relationships, on the other hand, are based on helping each other achieve goals or fulfilling practical needs. We've repeatedly seen that JR and Sue Ellen are the latter. She looked pretty and provided JR a nice, outward-facing trophy wife who could help plan parties and work charities. He provided her with a sterling name, clout, and of course, more wealth than she could make on her own in 10 lifetimes. Bobby and Pam, on the other hand, exemplified the communal relationship. The marriage certainly does neither of them any favors with their respective families.
When's that brother of yours going to give up that crusade against us Ewings?
The Ewings openly say that they would have preferred Julie Gray or Jenna Wade to Pamela.
For a while there, we all thought they were going to get married.
Jock.
Well, hell, nothing came of it, Ellie.
And both Cliff and Digger are immediately distrustful of anything Bobby related. And yet, Bobala or Pamby? Bobby and Pam work on a different level. They mutually support each other in spite of, and sometimes like in this episode, because of their family's opposition. Both men in each couple have disagreements with their wives over major issues in the episode, mostly based on attitudes inherited from their father. Bobby feels that Pamela having a career might delay or stifle starting a family longer than he wants, and JR is in the exact opposite position, thinking that a family might cramp his jet-set playboy lifestyle. Of course, each brother handles the issue differently. JR scuttling Sue Ellen's plans behind her back without even a conversation. and Bobby voicing his opinion before finally recognizing that his opinion is just that, an opinion, and Pamela's say is what is important. Black Market Baby is also the story of two women attempting to assert their individuality. Not even independence, but individuality in the face of their husbands' objections. We see not only the differing reactions of their husbands, but their differing individual situations. This is exposed when Pamela confronts Sue Ellen with her objections. The problem with Pam is that she's perfect. Being a woman has exempted her from the emasculation that Digger and Cliff hold against the Ewings. Her youth has not yet started to fade the way that Sue Ellen's has, and her husband is, well, he's just the best. Plus, going through life looking like Victoria Principal has to have a lot of advantages. But all of that privilege has given Pam a naive, after-school special understanding of the world. She criticizes Sue Ellen's decisions because they're not the decisions that she would make. But of course, she isn't in Sue Ellen's position. A biological clock that is slowly winding down, the pressure to produce an heir in a patriarchal family after 7 years, and a husband who would rather chase skirt than make love to her. It's easy for Pamela to moralize because life is easier for Pamela in general, and she assumes life is just as easy for everyone else. If you need anything to drive home the symbolism of how the two women's lives are going, look no further than the sleek, sexy Chevy Camaro Pamela receives at the end of the episode, and then the frumpy, wood-paneled Mercury wagon Sue Ellen drives. Might as well call it the Pontiac Boner Killer. In other news, the character of Rita is played by Talia Balsam, daughter of the great character actor Martin Balsam and Joyce Van Patten of the famous Van Patten acting family. I don't think Balsam's performance here is helped by the writing.
But you want me to turn around? See me from all angles?
Rita is, after all, just a proxy fight for JR and Sue Ellen, but she does what she can in the role. Balsam would have a steady career in television and film for the next 40 years. She also famously had a whirlwind marriage to George Clooney before settling down with Mad Men's John Slattery, the latter starring with her as his wife on that show. Black Market Baby gives us some much welcome Sue Ellen time, shading in the lines and turning her from an icy Lady Macbeth to a more sympathetic oppressed heroine. But at least Pam and Bobby are happy.